Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Matthew, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Introduce yourself and the name of your business.
Yeah, I'm Matt Burr. I'm an HR consultant. I've been in HR for almost 20 years. The consulting firm has been in business since October of 2015, Burr Consulting LLC.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Matt. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, I started out as an intern, an HR intern back in 2006, and I was an undergraduate student. Took a Myers-Briggs and realized that HR, legal, marketing, and financial planning were probably some of the areas that made the most sense. I was already doing the HR, function at that point, decided to stay with it. And, I've pursued it ever since then for the last almost 18, 19 years. And decided to found the company in 2015. I did see a need for it in the in upstate New York area, and really kind of have grown since then. I've done I was a full-time professor at one point as well for 5 years. I own another executive recruiting company and a labor poster printing company, but primarily focused on small and medium-sized organizations, navigating HR strategy, dealing with the day-to-day issues, the legal landmines and things like that. I do a lot of executive coaching now, which is great. So, but primarily change management. Normally you don't call the consultant unless there's an issue in the organization. And so that's normally where I see my opportunity to come in and drive change and strategy. So.
Okay, now as we are building the foundation for the viewers today, you said that you were in HR, but then you decided to be a professor as well. What were you teaching the students?
Yeah, so just general business management courses. I still do some adjunct work now for a few schools in New York. I teach an exam, SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management prep course, certification prep class for a school in Baltimore as well. Everything's done remotely, but HR, org behavior, your general business course is really, again, anything related to business is what I've taught. But right now, primarily human resource management, intro to HR is where my focus is at this point. So
That's a good deal. Now, as you started in HR, you said you started as an intern. Was that with a larger firm? Was that with a smaller business? Tell us a little bit about that
Yeah,
story.
so it was a foundry, right? The place I worked, it's a foundry in upstate New York. They actually make fire hydrants. So if you go out in the street, you might see Kennedy Valve fire hydrants, out right on the corner at that point. So it's a corporation out of Alabama. So I would say it's probably a medium-sized corporation at that point, and had the opportunity to work as the HR intern, the same place my grandfather was an electrician for like 40 years, which is very unique opportunity to work with the same professionals and same group of people that he had the pleasure of working with for many years as well. So.
Well, that's awesome. Now, you were doing a couple other things, being a professor, and then 2014-15 rolled around. Now, was there a specific event that happened in your life that made you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to burn the ship and go all in on my business. Was there an event that happened there?
Yeah, prior to that, 2006 really through 2014 timeframe. I took some time off in 2011, 18 months to go get a master's degree at the University of Illinois. And so had kind of looked at going to law school in late 2014, early 2015, applied. I was living in Wisconsin, decided to come back to New York right around October of 2014. During that time, applying to law school, always wanted to go to law school at that point. And so in the process, I picked up some interim work doing, an interim HR director at a healthcare institution, and at the same time started doing some adjunct work for a local community college. And so, fast forward to June of 2015, waitlisted a number of law schools, didn't get into any of the ones that I had really kind of selected at that point. Started kind of, I don't want to call it something, I kind of getting a little bit nervous. I don't want to call it desperate, but it's like, I got to find something to do. It's getting towards October, November, so July, August, September timeframe. And so I took a job at another manufacturing facility, a few hours away from where I live now. kind of had a gut intuition that it wasn't the right move at the time for me, but they threw a bunch of money at me. I went up there for 4 days and resigned with a handwritten letter that just said this just wasn't for me. And at that
Okay.
point, took a drive from New York to Las Vegas, which was, I think, needed to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. On the way back, really realized that the consulting route, going down the non-corporate route, was the direction I wanted to go. I did see a need at that point in the area that I live, and just kind of from there it dominoed into the consulting, the full-time professorship. I do, did some mediation work for New York State, with the public sector labor unions, and so really was a great move at the time as well. I was working on an MBA through Syracuse University, but yeah, I mean, it just hit me that this wasn't the right move. I think I got a little bit desperate and realized that it wasn't going to work. I mean, I've been in those facilities before, done it, been there, done that, kind of been successful, and it's like, okay, what's the next challenge? And really decided to take the risk. I gave myself 2 years at that point to turn a profit. Most people wouldn't, think it was going to be five. Obviously, during that 2 year time frame, working on the MBA, borrowing $120,000, you got to pay it back eventually. And so, that all kind of rolled up, and I was able to start generating some income, which again led to the full time professor job, which helped me continue to grow that business and lead to a number of other opportunities, 7, 8 years later at this point. But yeah, I mean, it just happened to that it was just time to make a move. It was time to take that risk and figure out what happened. I knew if at the end of the day, if I couldn't make it work in the area, if I couldn't make the consulting arena work, I could go back and pay that debt back pretty quick with a high level HR position as well. So.
Yes, yes. Makes a lot of sense. So you got up there, saw that it wasn't the right mix for you, which is highly important because you do have to take care of yourself. Got in the car or a truck and had a few miles of clarity there to drive. New York to Nevada is a pretty decent time for you to clear your mind. Then you come back and we're starting Burr Consulting.
Yep.
Now, tell me all about your current business, what you do, who you're helping, what you're providing, and how we can best connect you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I work with clients from, really startup. I mean, even venture funded clients in the past, from 1 or 2 employees up to 7 or 800 employees, for profit, not for profit, government as well. Union, non-union is something I deal with. I'm, very experienced with the labor stuff, which is niche in HR at this point. But generally it's day-to-day HR management, decision making, kind of looking and helping navigate some of those decisions, setting strategy. I come in to do a lot of compliance audits, review handbooks, coach and mentor either HR professionals or management at this point as well. Do a lot of training just on the day-to-day HR functions with management or with HR professionals, job descriptions. I mean, really HR A to Z. How do you navigate ADA claims, FMLA, things like that, paid family leave, paid sick leave, all that stuff that continues to change really at the state level that a lot of organizations just aren't equipped to deal with, right? And it's just coming in, being that subject matter expert, kind of, helping drive that change as well. Other times, clients will bring me in if there's issues within senior management, within the HR department. They'll ask me to come in and kind of navigate and audit, look at things, and then make recommendations, right? I mean, so there's times when I do have to go in and replace people in HR departments or senior management when the change management is necessary. Get a lot and get involved in a lot with workplace investigations as well. So anything related to an internal complaint, try to get that addressed efficiently and ensure we are taking care of the workplace, but more importantly, taking care of the employees and the culture and driving that at that point as well. But those are some of the big things I do with the consulting firm. The executive recruiting company at this point, we just really kind of got that rolled out in January. We primarily are filling HR professional positions, so management, director, generalist type roles. With that, the other business at this point, which dominoes into the consulting arena for me as well, just to make sure we're setting that organization up for success. But it's really partnering with the organization from an HR standpoint to ensure we're driving strategy and kind of aligning the people, the business, and then doing things legally, right? The mission, vision, value should domino from the culture, the people, the communication. So.
Yes. Yes. Now, I do have a question because I have spoken to a couple other HR consultants, and I want to get your stance on the relationship you have with the business. I was talking with most HR, and they say they have to be in their own box. They can't really talk to other people. They just got to be standoffish, sort of, because you have the responsibility of getting people out of here if they're not doing
Yeah.
what they need to do. But then I had another young lady said that she befriended people. What's your stance on the relationship inside of the organization you're working with?
I'm a big proponent of eliminating silos. That's part of the class that I teach, the SHRM exam prep class, is you can't have silos. You just can't get anything done. I mean, relationship management is absolutely critical. I think HR does need to remain neutral and be able to separate the decisions from the personal relationship. It's tricky. I mean, we are that position where we do have to make hard decisions at time with leadership. And I've made recommendations to boards to replace senior leaders, the people paying my bills. I mean, I've said you got to get rid of this person. I mean, so those are I think trickier opportunities for HR professionals, but it is again aligning the needs of the workforce with the needs of the organization, right? And yeah, I mean, again, I think you do have to have the relationship to get things done, professionally. It's probably more respect than it is friendship at that point, but at the same time, it's coming in and consistently delivering results. And I look at it really with anything in life. In order to get anything in life, you got to remain disciplined and consistent in your process. And I do that with every employer. If I'm going to commit to come in and do something, we're going to get it done. I mean, and so that's the approach I take. But I totally, I would say you got to knock down the silos and absolutely find that partnership, that collaboration. And I think one of the important things there is really understanding the business. I mean, I think that there's at times a lack of HR knowledge on like the finances, the business, the operation. We understand the psych side, which is great. Like again, the employee relations and resolving conflict, totally important parts, but at the same time, you have to be able to make strategic decisions that add value to any organization from the business standpoint too. So
Yeah, as we are creating the framework and painting the picture of what you're doing, do you mind sharing with us maybe one of those engagements that you had where you took a company that was all jumbled up like spaghetti noodles and then straightened them out? Can you give us an example of one of those engagements that you've come across?
there's so many over the last 18 years. I'll go back to probably my first job as an HR generalist. I was very new in HR at that point, 2008, 2009. The organization, just to put it, bluntly, is we lost $20 million in 2008. We were the worst and this was a manufacturing plant. We were the worst company from a workers' comp standpoint, and out of 100,000 employees globally, we had 400 employees. So think about that. Like we were the bad seed for the organization. Nobody got bonuses because of all the issues we had, and spending time in other sites, you got a little bit ripped apart at times as well. And so it was either sink or swim at that point, survive or close the facility. And again, part of it was we brought in a consultant from Toronto who really, I think, trained me into these positions and showed me the secret formula and how to be effective. He was more of an operations driven person at the time, but brought in a new general manager, replaced a lot of the senior leadership team. I mean, really got everyone singing from the same sheet of music, implemented KPIs, kind of implemented a new level of accountability, which at the time really was, we also, again, replaced people that just didn't fit the organization as well. Realized that there was, I would call it, bloat in the organization. There was inefficiencies, and so we looked at opportunities there to replace or to streamline. And then also part of that, unfortunately, was downsizing. I mean, I remember part of that job, the more negative side of HR was laying off 150 people, manufacturing employees in a day. I mean, or in a week. I mean, it wasn't, those are hard decisions to make, but at the same time, it gave me provided me the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be effective in my role now, and realize kind of how to navigate those communications, navigate those decisions. And so that was probably the first thing I've seen, and really, I mean, I've had other wins throughout my career as a consultant, but just early on in my career, I think set the tone for change management, really creating a sense of urgency. And through all that, the company is, as far as I know, as of a few years ago, had not had a lost time in probably 10 or 12 years, still in business, a lot smaller than they were, but at the same time, we were able to turn the ship, right the ship, and make it effect. I mean, to make it, still viable at this point in what they were doing. And so I mean, I just see that, like, and when I talk to clients about, the process, and about what I envision as success is, we're going to have wins and losses, right? We're going to have good days. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have ups and downs. And I tell people that we're going to have a good week, and we're going to backtrack 2 weeks. I mean, that's just part of change, and we're not going to get from A to Z. We get to Z and go back to A. And I think that's change management. That's really being strategic in the HR consulting arena at that point, and understanding that is, it's just part of the process, and you just have to be patient. I mean, and patience and decision making hold people accountable, and consistent in process at that point. So.
Yeah, well, 16, 17 years later, they're still running. Obviously, that is a great example of the services that you provide and the success that you provide those people that bring you on. So congratulations on that. Now, another part of the HR that you said you're introducing is the executive recruiting. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you're getting it going and getting off the ground. I want to try to highlight that portion of your business. Who are you trying to get in front of? Is it a specific industry? Tell us a little bit more about that part of your business.
Yeah, so that's another business that I own. It's Talentscape LLC. And so late last year in 2024, the stars aligned, and we were able to connect and partner with MRI Network, which is a franchise executive recruiting company, global organization. And so I had the executive recruiting company for, since January of 2021, kind of as a side business. I'd fill roles as needed. We really kind of honed in, and we wanted to focus on the HR profession specifically. We're the only ones in their network that are doing it at this point. This is my brother and I are kind of navigating this together. He's working for me, helping us fill and get the business off the ground. And so really, I mean, again, it's HR specific positions. I would say generalist all the way up to vice president. The industry doesn't matter at this point. I think it's more where we see the need, where we see challenges, whether it's remote or hybrid or in-person HR. Labor relations is another one. But again, I think in HR positions, there's always stress, there's always challenges, always opportunity. I want to make sure we're setting people up for success long term in the right roles. And frankly, organizations, we can't have 1 or 2 years people burn out and turn over. We don't want that in any organization. It's hard to build a succession plan or long term trust and viability in any department if we've just got churn and burn at that point. So it's kind of, again, navigating really any industry that is in need of an HR professional, making sure we're setting it up for success. The one caveat that I've carved into my business as well is, with my experience in multiple industries, I always offer up 6 months of coaching, mentoring for any HR professional going into a role at this point. And, we had successfully filled a role last week, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. And part of that deal was when the person starts on the 31st, I'll be in there making sure, having those conversations, and coaching for the next 6 months, and making sure that person is, again, aligned, and making sure we're setting them up and addressing the issues or concerns. And so that's kind of a niche area, I think, that probably not a lot of recruiting companies are offering, is just having that hands-on, I'd call it, white glove approach to the runway, and making sure that person, building that foundation. So,
yes. Thank you so much for telling us about both of those businesses that you have going on. As we were talking, you said you also do some speaking and you're an author. Tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I primarily speak at HR conferences. Just, I mean, again, on the change management. I launched a book in 2023, How to Become an HR Consultant. So I've run a number of presentations on that. I've got an upcoming book we're going to look at publishing over the summer. It's called Mood Swing Management, right? And it's about what I see is leaders, senior leaders, leaders in organizations making decisions based on their mood. So it's not only like looking at that aspect, but also about how to navigate that. And again, I think pull the emotion out of the decision, making sure we're doing the best thing for, again, for the employee, for the organization, and not basing decisions on moods. I mean, you can't fire someone because you're in a bad mood, but I've seen it. I mean, you just can't do that. And so
Yeah.
so that book is kind of, it's not only about like addressing that, but also kind of taking the steps to, I think, offset that from a personal standpoint as well. And then the other two books that I've written are about student loan repayment, right? I've had success in the past. I paid off 74,000 in 24 months, my first master's, and my MBA I paid off 117 in 33 months. So I've kind of written that as part of the journey in the other two books. But more recently, it's about, again, HR consulting, and then also really navigating some of the emotion at the senior leader level, conflict resolution, workplace communication, which is primarily where I see opportunity to coach at this point. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing about that. We always want to learn more about you and those things that you're doing. And we want to ask the question as we go into this next section. We want to see if you can share with us some of those business skills, some of those best practices that you've utilized over your time in business that have helped you to be successful, that maybe some of the entrepreneurs and business leaders that are watching today can add to their bag and try to see some success. Can you share some of those things with us?
Yeah, I mean, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, I mean, again, I think that you never leave a what if on the table. I mean, I think no risk, no story. I tell people no risk, no Ferrari, no Lamborghini, whatever it might be at that point. But I would tell you to take the risk if you're thinking about it. Whether you win or lose, you're going to learn something at that point through that process. It's I think it's always opportunity to take a risk, especially on yourself, right? I mean, I think there's opportunity to do that. And then from a leadership standpoint, I do a lot of coaching and speaking. I, recently spoke at the Syracuse Whitman School for their undergraduate business students at Syracuse University. The two biggest skills, the takeaways I see as opportunity for new leaders or even managers that have been 25, 30 years into organizations is workplace communication is critical. How we communicate in the workplace is you've got to have effective communication skills. Whether it's written, verbal, active listening is a component, and then also conflict resolution, right? I mean, a lot of times I'm brought in when the conflict has exploded into a crisis, and if we can navigate and address those issues at a lower level, it just sets the tone for better culture, better leadership. I think more engagement from the workforce, more trust in the system itself. And then again, consistent accountability at the end of the day as well. And that includes self, right? I mean, so we're holding everybody to a standard. But again, I think that workplace communication, conflict resolution, and then, consistent or fair accountability, I think they call it like, internal procedural justice inside organizations if we're looking at the org behavior definition. But yeah, I mean, creating the culture, but conflict and workplace communication, probably the biggest skills I see as opportunities to coach on and continue to improve in any organization. So.
All those are magnificent things for people to keep an eye out on, because you have to be able to speak inside of these offices. I know we're in the studio now, and I see some of my coworkers walking around now, and I think about some of those interpersonal relationships and how sometimes they get along, sometimes they don't. But we don't have it where it gets too big, where we have that huge conflict. But sometimes there is a little bit of tension because we all have ideas, and not all ideas are great, but and you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but sometimes we have those little rubs, and that seems like it's important to get around that.
And not all conflict is bad. It's just, I mean, again, combat is where you get the issue, right? Conflict is inevitable, but at the end of the day, how we manage and how we navigate some of that can lead to change, can lead to innovation, which is great. It's just making sure that it is an unprofessional name calling, and then not addressing issues or a harassment or whatever it might be if it comes up in the workplace. And that's where I see a lot of continued opportunity. For, human species is really conflict avoidant. That's been proven. But as leaders, we have to, I think, proactively address it as we see it, and making sure we are trying to resolve it if there are issues between coworkers or between subordinates at that point as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those best practices. Now, Matt, we understand that you're highly educated, got a ton of experience, but we want the audience to also know that Matt is a human being, not a cyborg over there. Now, let's just say that everyone is fine with executive recruiting. You have handled all of the HR. Time and money are not an issue at all. What is it that Matt would do with his time?
That's a good question. I enjoy. I mean, again, I do like working out. I just went for a run this morning. I'm in the process of actually restoring a 1973 International Scout. It's like an old Bronco at this point. 3.5 years in the making, and it'll be done here pretty quickly. I would probably think I'd be taking that to, like, some car shows and kind of cruising around in that thing once it's done at this point. But that's what I can think of right now. I do like to travel. I love Yellowstone National Park. I've got family out in Utah, Texas, and I've got some friends in Florida. So probably some travel, probably some car shows and things like that with that vehicle. But that's probably where I see kind of the peace of mind and kind of the distancing from work at times. So.
Now, the Scout, what made you get into that? Did you always like the cars when you were younger? This one just jumped out to you. What made you surround
Yeah,
yourself with the Scout?
so in high school, I remember seeing one at a gas station. My friends worked at a gas station many years ago. It was a bright orange, vehicle, big lifted tires on it, and wanted it. I mean, again, it was one of those things where I wanted an International Scout from 18, 20 years ago. And, a few years ago, I'd paid off all my student loans, 2021, October, September timeframe. And I'd met a restoration person that owns a restoration shop through a chamber event. And I called him up and said, hey, let's kind of look at what the scout market has at this point. Let's try to get started on a project. And he found one. It was like pulling a needle out of a haystack in this area. I got it for a bargain price at that point, and really kind of pulled it down from the frame and have built it into probably a Barrett Jackson level vehicle at this point. But it's taken 3.5 years. I've learned patience through this process, realized how much stuff costs when you do, vehicle restorations. But we're getting close on it at this point. So yeah, it's been fun. I've always wanted one, whether I keep it. I mean, it's an investment at this point now, but it's been an interest. It's been a lot of learning. I didn't know a lot about vehicles, but really wanted one from when I was young. They're hard to find, very hard to find at this point, and so it's nice to have one and kind of save Americana as well. So.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, we definitely appreciate you sharing those things. And I wanted to ask now, if someone had questions about the HR consulting, about the executive recruiting, or just some of those skills you talked about when it comes to conflict resolution, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my email is Matthew at burrconsultingllc.com. Website is burrconsultingllc.com. The executive recruiting company is talentscapesearch.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Matthew Burr, and Twitter at Burr Consulting. And you can see some pictures of the Scout. I've posted a couple of those on LinkedIn and Twitter. But primarily, again, email or cell phone number, all that stuff is listed. And you're able to drop in a question through my website as well, which it sends it right to my to my email, or my inbox. And then also, if you're interested, I do send out a weekly newsletter. You're able to subscribe to that on the website as well. So normally it's just HR topics. This week, we're going to be doing one specifically on HR, or not, on internships, kind of the legal areas to think about as well. But it's just a general overview of what organizations should look at from an internship standpoint to make sure we're following laws and really providing students opportunities as well. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. We truly do appreciate that. We know sometimes it is challenging to talk about ourselves and peel back a couple of those layers of the onion. And we truly do appreciate that. And we always try to honor our guest by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it defaults back to, take the risk if you've got the opportunity. If you see something where there is a need and you're thinking about from an entrepreneurship standpoint that there is value. I mean, if you're taking the bet on yourself, it's hard to lose at that point. So I'd absolutely make sure and encourage people to take the risk, and whether you win or lose, you're still going to learn something at the end of the day. But best decision I ever made was starting the consulting company and kind of watching it evolve for the last decade. Truly blessed to have opportunity. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Matthew. You've been a wonderful guest today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.